But there are two other books, Paradiso and Purgatory. And the conceit or theme in Purgatory for the characters is that Dante has them acting against the qualities or sins or wickedness or bad habits of their earthly life. And so the characters in Purgatory have to do things that are contrary to what they had done on earth. For the proud, or the prideful, they have to walk around carrying unbelievably heavy boulders, and those boulders push them down and make them physically feel low. The envious, they have their eyelids shut, so they can't see anything to be envious of. And on the level 4 of the Purgatory, Dante puts the slothful. That's a good word. It sounds like what it is. Maybe in South America you've seen the sloth that hangs from a tree. The slothful are those who, in their earthly life, were not able to rouse any energy for spiritual activity. There's a great Protestant theologian from the 20th century named Karl Barth, and he said this, that the deadliest sin of modern times is not so much pride, but sloth. Sloth, quote, a sort of gross indifference to matters of the spirit. Barth said, when it comes to economic gain or political advantage or career advancement, people know what to do, and they do it with energy. But when it comes to the things of God, to matters of ultimate significance, they balk or they yawn with boredom. Sloth. So Dante has the slothful. He makes them exercise. He makes them run. And when they're running, they listen basically to what we call a tape, but they listen to someone proclaiming the line from Scripture of tonight's Gospel. Mary set out and traveled to the hill country in haste. No word goes unused in the Scriptures, and it is packed with all sorts of meaning and levels. What did it mean she went in haste to see her cousin Elizabeth? You know, when we think of Mary from the beginning, her quality was hospitality. She was hospitable. She was welcoming. She opened herself to be full of grace and indeed full of the Lord of life. But when we look at the Scripture texts about her, she's always on the move. This life within, this, in a way, we see in the bouncing baby in the womb of John the Baptist. This bouncing even creates physical movement. In a couple of days, we'll hear the story that Mary and Joseph moved to Bethlehem because of the census under Caesar Augustus. And then in our Christmas stories, because of a slaughter of innocents, something we know about, Mary will move to Egypt, and inevitably, she will move back to Egypt, having protected the Lord of life. We know that when Jesus is going about his father's business as a precocious 12-year-old, Mary and Joseph can't find him in the caravan and have to go back to Jerusalem to find him in the temple. We know as he begins his earthly ministry, she is by his side at Cana in Galilee, a day's journey from Nazareth. We know that she's at the foot of the cross in Jerusalem, when Jesus says to John, the apostle, "Behold your mother." And we know that that command creates the relationship that moves her all the way to Asia Minor, to Patmos, and to Ephesus. And then perhaps the greatest move of all, as her heavenly reward, our Lord comes and assumes her body and soul into heaven. And she doesn't stop there, does she? Whether in lore or in truth, from her place as Queen of all saints, it is she who has appeared the most in time and space, whether in Fatima or Lourdes or Guadalupe. That opening, that welcoming, that hospitality, that spirit truly moves her. And we have this feast of the visitation. She goes and sees the old lady, and the two of them, mother to mother, and child to child. What a great line. The baby leaps for joy. You ever ask yourself as you get older, what makes you truly joyful, makes you bouncy? I always say to people, if you're having a bad day here on this property, take a stroll through preschool, kindergarten, or first grade. They even move. They don't stop. They are bouncing. They're full of joy. And it gives us insight into the trouble and horror and loss of this week. On Friday, I attended one of the funerals of the little girls because her grandmother is a parishioner here. And Monsignor Weiss put it so well. They wanted to be together. They like to go to school. They're in first grade. They're starting to socialize. They like each other. They're playful. They're full of joy. And now we believe, as a class, they're full of joy in the angelic host. But it gives us an insight even to Christ's point. Be like those little children. Where's our joy? What really gives us joy? What makes us bouncy? And I thought to myself, we spend so much time now with these things in our hands, right? Looking at them and punching them and doing whatever and then tripping. We might put down those things once in a while. I thought of Narcissus. Remember the great Greek myth? He was captivated by his beauty. He kept looking down and down into the water until he drowned. In a way, there's a narcissism about these things. Maybe we should put them down and look at each other. And when you think about first graders, at least I hope so far, I don't know a first grader with a gadget, with a phone. I know video games, yes, but not yet. Visitation. Father Bishop, His Eminence Cardinal Egan, challenged our high school class of confirmands to use their energy, their youthful joy, to go to the nursing homes, the hospital, or the extended care facilities, to go visit someone. How wonderful it is for an older person to have a young person interested in them, he said. He being 80, and said, it's just gives you a bit of joy and a bit of hope. We need to do more of that. And when you think about it, what are we really celebrating this Christmas season? But the greatest visitation of all time, of God to man, of heaven to earth, the incarnation. He came to us in haste. He was moved with love and pity and mercy to be with us for a time, so that we might have the opportunity to be with him forever. The visit. That's what we celebrate. The waning hours of Advent. Christmas is near. For the last couple of weeks in the readings, he's been on the sideline. And he's still on the sideline a bit today, but he's there, but in the womb. The womb which is the tabernacle of the covenant. We've now moved from the Holy of Holies in Jerusalem to a young lady in Nazareth, who is the first tabernacle of grace in this world. The first reading says, what can come from Bethlehem? It's too small, it doesn't mean anything. A little bit like the questions that, how do you explain evil of the sort we've seen? Well, we do it all the time. When we remember, when we light that light over there at Easter in the darkness, that we say as a people of faith, that darkness will never overwhelm the light. That's a pilot light. It never goes out. They've been trying to get him from day one. They killed him, and they couldn't get him. He is the Lord of life. In 1865, a clergyman named Philip Astor had need of a sabbatical in Philadelphia, and so his bishop gave him permission. And he took quite a travel for 1865. He went to the Holy Land, to Israel. And he got a horse, and he decided he would travel all over Judea and Galilee on his horse. And on Christmas night in 1865, he rode his horse 6 miles southwest of Jerusalem to see Bethlehem for the first time. And when he looked out, he couldn't believe it wasn't even much of a town. It really was almost nothing. And yet, from nothing came these words. O little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie, above thy deep and dreamless sleep. the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight.